Hello, comic book readers, and welcome to a new live episode of Off the Rack. I am Sal.
And I'm Tiffany.
Here on youtube.com/ComicPop Returns. Make sure to like that video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications so you know when we're going live, which is typically Mondays around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the YouTubes. Of course, if you're catching the show after the fact, you can always help us out by subscribing and liking the video and so forth. If you're listening to the show on audio, you can give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple iTunes or whatever they're calling it nowadays and help us out that way. Otherwise, the best way to do it is just to catch us and watch the show. That's what we appreciate here. Thank you so much. Today, we're going to be talking about some news and, of course, some comic book stuff, because that's what we do on every episode of Off the Rack. We review comic books and then recommend books that are coming out this week that we think you should check out. And between those two segments, we also give you the book of the week. The book we think is just a real standout issue, something that's really special and exemplary from the week. And then we let you know what that is. And we each have our own book of the week. I'm excited about that. So but before we do that, there's so much more to talk about. In fact, in the news, Tiffany, you had a very interesting topic that I think is really important that we should discuss.
Thanks. Bug?
Yeah, fly.
Okay. I don't know if you saw much about it.
Did you know what's interesting about it is I saw none of the discourse that sparked it.
Yeah, I don't think I did actually either. But without having seen the discourse, I got an idea of what was going on. But that recently, Jim Lee is charging $20,000 for commission.
Right, and then by the way, I don't even know if that's like the price he charges per commission. It's more like there was some conjecture online that Jim Lee had charged or does charge $20,000 for particular commissions.
Right. And so what I really wanted to talk about was not only, let's talk a little bit about the cost, how people are feeling about it, and the fact that there's a lot of outpouring from
the industry.
Yeah, from the industry, from people who know Jim. And because I haven't seen a lot of people against it, but I can imagine someone seeing that and going like, that's lunacy.
Absolutely.
Like what a greedy person, right?
Well, if anyone has any opinion anywhere online, you're going to see an outpouring of people who are in opposition to that opinion. So such is the reality of the world we live in.
Right.
But in this case, yeah, certainly I can imagine people, especially people who aren't in the know or people who don't necessarily value art or don't necessarily understand the value of art.
Yeah, I mean, that is what's so interesting, right? Art is one of those things that people think of as it's a thing that they want. Right, it's a thing that they want. I want that.
Everybody wants.
I want it to be in being
and good.
Yes, I want. Right. No one feels like they need, but they want, and because of that, sometimes they feel like, well, it should just be provided, right?
Mm.
And I understand that there's something about the human mind. It helps to see art. It helps to see expression. It helps to, have that connection via music, via movie, painting, drawing,
gaming,
poem, whatever, right? But the fact is, an artist, even if they are an artist and they're there to be creative, and you've heard of the starving artist and such, because that's a trope for a reason, right? It's expensive to be an artist.
Yeah, I remember getting such a shock. My mom used to be a bit of an artist, and I remember her taking me to art stores and whatnot. Never really noticed the prices, but I remember when you started taking me to art stores again, started looking at them, and I'm like, it is overwhelmingly expensive to be an artist.
Yes.
It is. I was like, this is an outrageous industry, audacious, you might say, from these retailers who are charging, $6 a pencil, and for these charcoal, for every single piece of material. I'd like to produce some art. You're probably plunking down $100 at least, especially if you don't have pre-existing materials.
Exactly. So what I wanted to kind of talk about was a couple of things. And let's start with why art costs money, right?
Please.
Art costs money. Like you said, the price of materials is outrageous. And there are only so many manufacturers who manufacture the quality that they might want to utilize in order to provide the best piece possible, whether they're making it for themselves or for a commission. There's different levels of materials, and obviously, much like with literally anything, the better the quality, the more expensive it is, right? Additionally, think about it like this. When you go to a doctor, if you get a contractor to work on your house, if you get an attorney, anything like that, any service out there in the world, if the person providing the service has had a lot of years doing said service, you're going to pay more for that. Right. You've got a doctor who's been, practicing for a very long time. You can charge more. If you have an attorney who has wins
a lot of cases.
Yeah, they can charge more. If you have a contractor who's been like building homes for the past like 25 years,
has a 5-star rating,
they can charge more because they have experience that comes along with what they've been doing. Additionally, when you hire those people, you are paying for the fact that they paid a lot of money oftentimes for education, whether it be at, university, master's, graduate school,
or trade school,
or even a trade
under
school.
A master.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying for that, right? It's typically built into that cost, but it's why sometimes, you'll see someone who's like, I think I could do that, and they don't charge a whole lot to fix something in your house. Maybe they don't do such a great job, versus someone who's like, listen, I've been doing this forever. I'm going to charge you this amount of money, but it's going to be done correctly. At least you hope it will be, right? Additionally, if you shop locally, right? If you shop at a small store, you ever notice sometimes things are a little bit more expensive, right?
Certainly. If I'm going to a mom and pop versus a super, I'm definitely going to be spending more.
Exactly. So part of what you're paying for there is not only the fact that they're a small shop and they have no parent company that helps
subsidizes them in any way.
It's a grocery store that, there is
a chain. They have investors.
Yes, exactly. They have all their overhead, right? So like, whether or not you're one person or you have multiple employees, you're paying salaries, you're paying health insurance, hopefully, you're paying bills, you're paying to keep the store open, you're paying to stock the shelves, right? All of those things, right?
Yeah.
Art is no different, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is it, if you can comprehend what it is to hire a contractor,
then you can.
It's the same thing with an artist. An artist, if they're doing that as their job, part of the price is they have to pay for health insurance.
Right.
They have to put food on their table. They have to clothe themselves. They have to pay rent. Like, they have to pay for all these things on top of paying for supplies to create that art. That is their job.
Yes.
Right? If you're commissioning them, that is their job.
Yeah.
And so art is expensive. It's also like, it requires talent and skill and a different part of the brain than like the rest of us might be able to activate. Right. So it's like, it is something that is special. And so it has a price tag associated with it. And like, I saw something online and I've never forgotten it. And I, to this day, even if I go to a table and like, I will look through art and I'm like, if it's
this
pricey,
is not
like if it's pricey, right? Like I will never say to an artist, that's too expensive.
Right.
I can't afford it.
Exactly.
Because the fact is, I can't afford it. That's what you've decided it's worth.
Yeah, then I can't
afford that. Right. That's not a you thing. That's a me thing.
Right. Because it's entirely subjective. One might pay, even if they couldn't afford it for something, whereas others might not even think twice about not paying that rate. But it bears repeating that, like, those commissions that you see, those pages, whether it's portfolio or just like original art from the books that you enjoy, those prices are the prices, and they're those prices not arbitrarily. There are prices based on a number of factors, not just the factors you brought up, which is of course like the upbringing, the schooling, the overhead, the cost of living, but also the rate at which everyone is kind of like charging at that time. Like there's no reason not to look over at your neighbor's table and say, well, they're charging this, I'm charging that. I mean, and you've noticed like a significant, kind of meeting of the minds in Comic-Con environments for writers and creators themselves, artists and writers as well, who have kind of like all unanimously decided like what the sweet spot is for signatures, CGC authentication. Well,
and a lot of that has to do with there's an industry that will back that does it for them, right? They're like the bad guy in a way, but even them, the people have to be paid for that too, so it's built into those prices, right? Like
exactly.
There is when you're in when it comes to commissions, because that's really what it is. We were talking about the price of a commission. That is immediately a business transaction.
Right.
That is no longer art for the sake of art. That is a business transaction, and that you're entering in willingly. You're asking someone to do something for you. I don't think you would go
to a contractor
and go, hey,
I need a new fence.
Would you mind putting a roof on my house? I will pay you in exposure because I'll have the roof and everyone can see what a
Or
good job.
I know everyone has roofs. You make roofs all the time.
Yeah.
Not only do you love making roofs, but I don't place a value on them because I see them everywhere.
Right. And that's okay. So let's add another layer to it because I want to get to the actual Jim Lee part of this.
Please, yeah.
At the core, but I want to add one more thing to it. There aren't a whole lot of industries where you see this level of complaint, or I mean, there's the restaurant industry and tipping, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a completely
different thing.
But yeah, I could see the parallel, but like
different.
But you're hitting on something where it's like only in the arts do we see this level of entitlement.
Yeah.
Or at least the reaction to it
Yes.
being entitlement.
Yes. So the fact is, it's like people for some reason have it in their brain that art should simultaneously be completely accessible to them, but also a lot of people who own that art then want to ascribe incredible value to it.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be valuable when you give it to me. Like, you should just give it to me. Just give it to me. When I have it, then it's worth a lot.
Then I can sell it for a lot of money, or
Right.
I can know that I'm sitting on it like a dragon.
Exactly. It is just as valuable from the moment it's created to when it's hanging on your wall.
Absolutely.
It's
right, but without me asking you to commission it, it would never exist.
Okay.
I'm just devil's advocate,
right.
but not really, because I don't believe in bad faith argument.
Like, my house wouldn't exist unless I asked for it to like be built. If someone's buying a plot of land and has something built on it, it's the same thing.
Well, that's also, I think that's why you see like a differentiation between the price of like a page that was made for a previous work that's available for purchase, like either on their website or at their table, and commissioning an artist to make an original commission.
Right. But even that page that's on the table, I don't pretend to know what the page rates are that artists get paid for things. But it takes a lot of time and effort for them to create that.
It most certainly does.
It takes a lot, and depending on the page itself and depending on the details that are in it, it takes a really long time to put those pages together.
Yeah.
And so when you see them selling them there, A, it's trying to free up space in their home, I'm sure.
Certainly.
And B, it's just trying to get a little extra money. Because whatever the page rate is, I don't think it changes based on how complicated or complex the page is. I don't know that, and I'm not going to pretend to.
No, I can speak to this only because I know artists in the industry and writers in the industry, and I've worked with different people. You and I have both worked with different artists on different projects before, and I can tell you that it rarely has come up where it's like, this is a particularly complex composition, and it will be more expensive than the previous 4 pages. Like, no, it's just this is the page rate, and if I have the predator fighting 8 triceratops in the middle of the savage land, that's gonna be just as expensive or just the same rate as if I paid for a talking head sequence.
Exactly. I see someone in the chat also threw something in about Picasso. There's something very different about the idea of like post-mortem sort of art.
But also
that is a value that, listen, the value of the art was already there, whether people saw it or not. It was always there, is what I'm saying. And then we ascribe more value to it once more of it can no longer be produced.
Scarcity always, or typically, adds value.
That could literally be said the same thing about wine.
Right. Well, or, original,
have no problem spending.
Right. Well,
a ridiculous amount of money on.
Or like Jim Aparo art. Just like, I would love to get a Jim Aparo sketch. Well, I can't ever get that.
Yep.
So theoretically, it should actually add more value.
It's literally like, it's natural resources. It's whatever.
Sure.
Like, scarcity drives up value, right?
Yeah.
So
getting back to Jim Lee.
Now that we've kind of all gone through this, like, the idea here is that, like, artists are people. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of talent. It takes a lot of energy. Oftentimes, if it is what they do for a living, it is their job. Like, that's how they like support themselves. And if we as humans decided that we need these things, then we need to understand that the people providing it for us is what they're doing to survive. It's what you're due 9 to 5. Now, here's the thing. I think some people think that it's just like, it's easy. Right?
Sure.
And additionally, I think some people, when they go to cons and you see prints, you're like, but art is cheap. That's a print.
Right. There's a difference. That's a mass-produced piece of art. And while yes, it took the artist a long time to make it. You're not asking for an original composition. You're asking for a reprint, and it's just different. It's like buying a poster at the mall.
Original art is priced differently for a reason.
It absolutely
there's
is.
Nothing like the original.
It's true. It's true.
All right, so let's talk about the Jim Lee of it all, charging $20,000 plus whatever dollars it is for that, right? From my understanding, is part of this came from the fact that Jim would charge like, call it $1,000, call it whatever, for a commission.
Yes,
Jim Lee,
as I remember,
one of the icons of
comic books in general. You would. I think it's fair to say,
and prolific WoW player.
Yeah. That's true. He also, yes, for the Horde. But I also understand that, like, essentially, Jim Lee is. I think it's inarguable to say that he isn't one of the top most prolific and sought after artists in the comic book industry.
Right.
Like a Jim Lee piece is just about the biggest piece of art you can get currently in the industry.
Absolutely.
Sure. Aside from like an Alex Ross.
Right.
But Alex Ross, Jim Lee, similar brackets where it's like in terms of proliferation, in terms of hype and longevity in the industry, and while there are exceptions that should be up there as well, like, definitely a Walt Simonson or any other I could name literally a dozen or 24 artists that deserve to be in the same bracket as Jim Lee or Alex Ross. But the industry itself has essentially agreed, Jim Lee is pretty much the top. Like if you're going to try and get like notoriety, eyeballs, higher sales, you're gonna, and you can afford it. You're gonna go for a Jim Lee.
And I think that this is a fair point to make out. Commissions aren't Jim Lee's job.
They're
another thing he does. So he has to find time. In his life. He has to give up something. Whether it be doing something at work, whether it be doing something with his family. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's why some artists
to not do it. So now you're paying for that too.
You're paying for his time.
Which is like, I think we all know, based on, I want you all to think about it. If you work a 9 to 5, it's time to leave. If someone asks you to stay and do something, you're not really mad necessarily about the task. You're mad about the fact that you just took time from me.
Well, especially, and if you want to keep going with that analogy, it's like being asked. It's like any contractor, and again, to use the contract analogy, it's because it's usually work for hire, and it's also commission based, and it's also but to do a job from 9 to 5 and then go home and then be required to do similar work for nothing or for pennies. Like when your brother-in-law asks you to replace the toilet main or, some other element. It's yes, may they seem ungrateful because essentially if you were to try and compare apples to apples, it's like, oh, a relative or a loved one isn't just using their natural born, as far as I'm concerned, skill to assist me in what I value to be only a few second job. True. However, when you get to the heart of it, the time, effort, money, and just talent that is required has a dollar value attached to it.
Exactly.
And it's not as simple as all that.
Right. So, all right. So part of, I think, where this came from was Jim was charging one rate and then finding the commissions he had done selling online for over $20,000.
Exactly. Like, let's say that his commission, let's say he was charging $1,000 for commissions.
So first, what I'd like to say there, whatever you do with your art afterwards is your decision. But that to me is dirty. That's just doing it dirty. Right.
It's not the same. And we are not condemning those, let's say, who are the recipients of like an art collection from a deceased loved one. I'm thinking about like, you inherit a whole bunch of art that you didn't commission or that you didn't really regard or that your parent loved, but you don't know what to do with. And so you do a little research and you sell it online.
Bingo.
That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing as those CGCers and people who go stand in line and get stuff signed and then immediately go to eBay, or, people who do that exact thing where it's like, I want a commission from Jim Lee. I know he is charging. Like, I look at the rate of what people are buying original Jim Lee art for, and I see that he is giving away his art for a criminally low rate. The return on investment, the ROI, is just so substantial.
Right. And so what I want to say first off is, if you're upset about this new price, if you were ever thinking like, maybe I might one day be able to save up to get it, and now it seems out of reach, do not be mad at Jim Lee. Be mad at those people.
Exactly. I think that's
number one.
Yeah. Well, definitely jump into that because that's the thing. Like,
because there are people who will, like, the greed will spoil things, right? I do think that what he was charging is probably lower than Jim should have been charging for, but it's his decision. It's
Exactly.
not anyone else's decision. It was his decision. Like, it was his decision to increase it. It's all on him, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to be upset about why it was increased, be mad at the people who were doing that. Scalpers ruin things.
Yeah.
Just period. I'm sorry. Not a fan. If you do it for a living, please don't ever tell
I
me.
have no,
I don't want
I
to
have no
know.
sympathy for you, but and it's comparable to that situation at New York Comic Con when Peach Momoko was tabling at New York Comic Con,
and that's another thing too, right? So like, that was what I wanted to kind of turn into.
Sure, yeah.
So, but Peach Momoko, let's go over that one more time. Peach was at New York Comic Con 2 years ago, charging between $10 and $30, I think, for sketch covers. Massive line broke out because people started hearing about this. People were like arguing, kind of fighting over it. Caused a disaster because Peach was there by herself. She was just doing what she thought was the right thing to do. No one was helping her. New York Comic Con reacted poorly,
shockingly
themselves. Blamed her for it.
Yep.
Instead of the people who were taking advantage of it. So talking about what artists charge for, I feel like Jim Lee deciding to charge this much for a piece is very brave and really cool and kind, in my opinion, to the rest of the art community. Because on the one hand, I think what he's done is allowed artists to go like, oh, is my art maybe worth a little bit more? Now, maybe most artists aren't going to go, and now I too will charge $20,000 or $10,000.
I think some artists would be surprised to find that their commission rate will low, or that their commission list will be halved or more if they start charging $20,000.
Right. But if instead they went like, I'm only charging like maybe $100 a page, like for a commission, maybe I should be charging, maybe I should look at what my costs are.
Yes.
Because maybe I need to put it up a little bit. I think that's like kind of cool for Jim to go out there and be like, this isn't what I do for a living.
Yeah.
This is an extra.
Right.
This is an extra.
Well, and it's also, it's great of Jim Lee, because he is in a different echelon, as we pointed out in the conversation, to kind of fall on the sword a little bit in that regard. To be like the first one to throw his hat over the wall and say, I'm worth this. This is the new price. And it is that price based on current trend. Yeah. And not necessarily the trend of like how much I'm worth, but it's the trend that is the current environment that has fostered this need to charge this number. Maybe that number will lower. Maybe the other numbers will go up. All I know is I know what art, not necessarily but art is valued at and what it should be.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for it. I'm going to get a lot of heat for it, but I can handle it because I can afford to charge $20,000 for
exactly.
For
and listen, I do think it's important for artists to like objectively also look at where they're at, right? An artist just entering into this field needs to understand that, they probably aren't producing.
They can't jump to that number or that level.
Or to the biggest. That doesn't mean shortchange yourself and do like $5.
Absolutely not.
Do not do that. But like, think about it objectively. Like, where am I skill wise? Where am I, in terms of my career?
Yeah.
How well known am I? What are my costs right now? All those things, right?
Well, yeah. And then there's other, there's all kinds of business podcasts and gurus you can consult to get that information. I was about to toss out some ideas and I'm like, whoa. There's also a wonderful art community out there that you can reach out to. I'm sure. I mean, if I can reach out to any number of artists in the comic book industry to ask dumbass questions about like the thing's member, why can't other artists talk to each other about like, hey, how much are you charging? Hey, how much have you noticed trends are going up? Have you noticed that like commissions have gone down? Because while there is a competitive element to that industry, it's also a collaborative one.
So it is. But let's talk about the other thing here, which is that the negative that could come of this, which I hope it doesn't, is that some artists might be like younger artists, newer artists might be bullied into like doing something for less because they'll be like, well, that's ridiculous. Like that. Oh yeah. Like,
certainly by art purchasers.
Yeah, yes. Potentially. Or people who will be like, oh, well, I could go and buy something from you, but you know what? Instead, maybe I'll just use AI.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? Where it's like now it's a bargaining chip as opposed to just paying the person what they should be paid to create what you want.
Or just not. Like your options usually are do it or not. But now, especially if you're trying to, reverse psychology someone into doing what you want, you create these different opportunities where it's like, oh yeah, I'll use machine learning to get my
right.
because I know that if you are in any way a prolific artist of any kind, your work has probably been fed into the machine already.
Yeah, it's been scraped
to learn your style,
which is unfortunate. Like that's a whole nother topic we don't have to get into. But the fact is, Jim Lee charging $20,000. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I really don't.
No,
I for who he is, for what he does, for his impact on the industry.
Yeah. The reality was, I was never going to afford a Jim Lee sketch before anyway.
Right. I wasn't going to get one. So for me, this isn't really a deal breaker, but like it will curb people who are going to be buying it just to turn around and sell it immediately.
I certainly hope
you
so.
just went ahead and, like Jim just said, enough of that.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you are going to do that, you've already paid for it. Like, then fine. Because the other element,
but like if someone's unwilling to pay $20,000 for the commission, now like you had artists or you had art buyers who were willing to go to eBay and pay $20,000 for a commission they didn't even want.
Yeah,
they're not going to pay $40,000 when they can just get $20,000 and get a Jim Lee commission, right? Well, if you can get it.
And that's the thing.
He has to have the time to schedule for it.
Right. We didn't talk about the other element, which is that when it comes to these commissions and the cost, if Jim Lee sells a commission or any artist sells a commission for their current rate, and a seller recognizes maybe some kind of trend that they're hitting on and can flip it for triple or 10 times its value.
Yep.
The artist who produced that commission does not get a kickback.
Oh, no.
Or a percentage of that sale.
No.
And that's the other thing. It's like, whereas Jim Lee is like, no, I'm charging $20,000 because I'm seeing that actually that is how much my art is valued at.
Yep.
So if you would like my art, then I'm going to make money off of it.
Yeah.
And the real money, because I don't think that there should be cottage industries built on the backs of exploiting artists.
I agree. No, I definitely agree. But I also want to point out, because I have a feeling a lot of the kind stories we were hearing about Jim Lee were coming from the fact that people probably thought that like Jim was just being greedy.
Oh, of course. Well,
right?
because most people
like
lack nuance in these kind of arguments and discussions, because as we discussed, I can't imagine anyone watching a podcast about comic books,
right,
not understanding the at least inner workings, at least the superficial inner workings of commission rates,
right,
and art dealerships.
I wanted to pull up a story because Gail Simone had a really solid story, and I can't. It just won't work,
right?
But the story was essentially she was at a con. They were putting together a charity. I think it's for. It was for Ostrander. I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that entirely, so I don't want to put that out there.
Sure.
But regardless, a prolific comic book artist, I believe, needed surgery to save his eyes, essentially.
Oh my god.
And so they were collecting art pieces.
Yes.
In order to do a charity auction with it. And Gail was working for DC at the time, I believe, and was like, I got the courage up to go and ask her boss, essentially, like, would you do one?
Yeah.
And she knew he had a slammed schedule.
Yes.
And he was like, yes. But it was like last day kind of thing, had a panel at the end of the day. And so he took the time at the panel and like threw it up on the screen
and made it into an event.
Did the panel while putting the piece together. Like he was like, I'll do a Batman.
Yeah.
He could have done any character, but he did the biggest character.
Right.
And then he's like, I'm going to add Wolverine.
Wow.
He's like, that'll really get them.
That's
right.
Fun.
Like, that'll get them. So he does all of that, completely holds court. Like, isn't just doing the piece and not paying attention to doing both at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
The panel is over. The con is closed down. People are like trying to get them to leave. And he's like, you know what? I don't love some of these. I want to finish this. I want to put some finishes on it. So they found a table and he did it until they literally kicked him out just so that they could take that piece and auction it. So if you're thinking Jim's doing this just to make money,
right?
It's not about that. It is literally about the fact that people are scalping the art.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, folks, like before you like just go like, oh my gosh, think about what were the odds you were ever going to meet Jim Lee, who had time to do a commission for you?
Right.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like So this isn't really going to affect most of us in our day-to-day lives, but understand the fact that like artists are people, they do this for their jobs. This isn't just something that we deserve. Just because you can go to a museum and see all of this art, you know, you pay one ticket price, you get the, oh, check out all of the art, right? Like people paid for that. People had to work hard for that. People died because they weren't recognized for what they did, right? And we should know better. We should know better, and we should understand that if we value this, if we value it enough to want to hang it on our walls, we should value it enough to pay for what it costs.
Exactly.
That's all I got.
Fair enough. So we read a whole bunch of books.
Yeah, we did.
Let's jump into a couple. I'm going to shotgun a couple if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I read Action Comics 1066 and Superman number 15. I should point out that Action Comics 1066 was, of course, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Rafa Sandoval. And Superman number 15 was also written by Joshua Williamson with art by Rafa Sandoval. This represents the conclusion of the House of Brainiac story. And what a conclusion it was. Josh and I have been chatting about this for a while. People have been calling it an event, the Superman event, House of Brainiac, 6 parts, when in reality, or at least as far as splitting hairs goes, Josh is referring to it as a crossover. This is not an event. This is a crossover. A story arc that takes place across multiple titles, not unlike Maximum Carnage, which I call an event. So one way or another, this will be a collected fun story that people will refer to, as a kind of a dovetail into the Absolute Power story arc, but also it kind of works on its own, just like Chip's Batman also dovetails into Absolute Power, but also somehow works on its own, divorced from it. But this story, wraps up Superman and Lex Luthor and Lena Luthor team up to fight Brainiac and the Brainiac Queen that he builds. And, a lot of high-flying action takes place. Sandoval's art is, really top tier, just really awesome, classic, yet modern superheroing. A lot of fun action sequences and epic moments for a lot of characters. Connor gets a breakout moment. Lobo gets one. Williamson's very hyper aware of making sure that if he's going to have a book with 13 characters, everybody should have a moment that looks really cool, or at the very least has a crucial element that supports the story. But this was a fun story. Just looking back on it, it was fun, and it read really well, and it came out consistently and quickly, and it represents for me all of the complaints people have, or at least responding to all the complaints people have about, like, modern events, intercompany crossovers, big ass story arcs, character moments, stakes, all that stuff. This did everything. It did everything you could ask for from a big Superman story.
I love it.
So how could you not enjoy it? And if you decided to skip it, you should be reading it. So go check it out in trade when it comes out.
Fantastic.
Green Arrow number 13 with art by Joshua Williams, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Amonse Nahulpen. I'm sorry. This was this is the next story. Like, they're calling it Countdown to Absolute Power. It absolutely is a connection, or at least a element to Absolute Power. It is a tie-in, but also kicking off a new story arc that represents Green Arrow's vantage point in Absolute Power. Fantastic art, really cool, really matches up with Sean Isaacs' work. The Phil Hester art is also pretty awesome, but that's just the cover. I believe. I don't know. But yeah, it basically just showcases what happens when you end a Green Arrow book, but you have to keep making a Green Arrow book. So, Green Arrow works with Amanda Waller, seemingly, betrays the superhero community. I think everybody knows Ollie would never do that, but so he's playing undercover, and I feel like I've seen that story a million times. But it's
Thank you. That actually really helps me, because this comes up in Flash.
Oh, really?
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, no, Ollie is seemingly working for Amanda Waller to take down superpowered people.
Okay.
He's obviously not.
Okay.
He is just working, to get close to Amanda Waller to take that kill shot he needs to take. And it's and that's fun, because the rest of the Arrow family is like, we just got back together. What are you doing? And so we get to see, a fun passing of the torch. This is Williamson. He read comics in the 90s. He knows the power of a classic elder statesman character handing the baton to the younger generation. So in this case, like Roy tracks him down, fights him, and then says, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I am out. I'm not Green Arrow anymore. I'm just a concerned citizen. You get the cave, you get the arrows, you get the hovey bike, you get everything you need. just take my mantle and leave. And then Roy doesn't, but Connor does. And so like Connor's like, I'm Green Arrow now. And I'm like, that's fun. All right. I remember when you used to do that. So that's really fun. It's just, it is a reward for reading Green Arrow. Like,
Fantastic.
I've read Green Arrow before, and I'm like, actually, that's not true. I've never read a Green Arrow story. I was like, that sucks. But then again, I really skipped a lot of Green Arrow. I've been cherry picking a lot of it. I read my Kevin Smith Green Arrow. I read my Mike Grell Green Arrow, and and some of this. It's very seldom, but when I do, it's fun. Green Arrow might actually be like for me the Daredevil of DC Comics, where it's like, when it works seminally, and when it doesn't work, it's immediately forgotten.
Right. Well, I guess it's convenient.
Right? What a fun crossover that would be. How about Green Arrow and Daredevil?
That'd be really fun.
Right? Yeah. So it's really cool. I also read the Spectacular Spider-Man #4 from Greg Weisman and Humberto Ramos.
How was it?
It was good. It's fun. The Ramos art is like, whether people like to admit it or not, Ramos is a contemporary classic Spider-Man artist. Like, Ramos has drawn so much Spider-Man and has such a distinctive style, and you immediately recognize it. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but if you do like it, it's the same as it ever was, if not better. So we see a couple of D-list supervillains teaming up to brainwash Spider-Man. They do. And I really liked it because it's basically, they're like, Pete and Miles are in their own like realities where they're given their heart's desire. And all they want to do is just kind of like live their lives simply and not do anything. And so they're like, damn it, no one's saying their last names. So I have no idea who these people are because they're unremarkable looking. And they're not doing anything exploitatable. Like, Peter wants to be married with children. Miles wants to be dating a girl he knows, like, and being Spider-Man. Like, there's nothing here that I can work with. And it eventually blows up in their faces. And then it culminates in a fight between Pete and Miles. That is, of course, misdirection.
That's amazing.
It's fun stuff. Good work. I dig it. Enjoy.
Love it.
How about you?
I read Ultimate Black Panther #5 this week.
Yay.
Did you check it out?
No, I kind of dropped this book. Not that I don't like it. More like I know it's not going to get canceled, so I'll just read it when it's done.
Oh, you're doing the thing.
I'll read the trade.
You're saying that like this book is good enough that you don't worry about it.
It's true.
Written by Brian Hill with guest artist Carlos Nito.
Okay.
Naito. Really solid. Again, every issue of this book has been really solid. And
yes.
What I'm loving so far about all of the Ultimate books is just how different each one of them is, and it really scratches an itch.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spider-Man is giving everybody like a Peter Parker Spider-Man experience they have been waiting for quite a while. True. Right? Peach Momoko is giving you an X story you've never seen before. And Black Panther is really giving me, like I said, like political intrigue.
Yep.
Tethered to past relationships. Because obviously, like
Storm.
You got Storm thrown into the mix. T'Challa is married, seemingly happily. So you got like potential, like, ooh, what's gonna happen there, right? Additionally, you have the supernatural stuff with Khonshu and and all that. So it's like a lot happening. This issue, they're like, okay, this is the thing that they are after.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. What does it do? Right? Like, what is the point of it?
I don't know.
They do some like you're utilizing Shuri's science and Aurora's powers. They display for us what it does, and seemingly what it does is like it can grow things. And like any organic material, seemingly, right? So you could create like plants or like
a person
or like an army or like whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I like that jump.
This is kind of bad.
Yeah, it has the potential to be a real problem.
Yeah, for sure. And so upon like explaining this, T'Challa goes to go talk to the what are their names? I always forget. I want to make sure. The Vodacon, the like prognosticators. About the fact that he's like, you're not telling me everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of know that. Right. And like, so they give a story about it. It's like, there wasn't just the one asteroid that fell. There were like 2 that fell.
Okay.
So, and they both fell around here. And, one of them was what we use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like vibranium, indestructible, amazing. And the other one was like, they describe it as like, it could spread life like a plague.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So, we got that going for us. And by the end of it, they lose it.
Oh, no.
it's stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And now the enemy has it. So what are we going to do about that? I don't know.
I don't
Find
know.
out. So like, I appreciate this because this was giving me like direction. Before it was like, who's this? Who's that? Because we still don't know who's the traitor.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we don't know
who's
who
the
to trust because we
betrayer?
don't really know who these people are
Right,
because
it's like, because I don't know this version of them. I don't know to expect or not expect. Like sometimes I'm like, well, obviously it's Okoye, and then I'm like, no, maybe it's Shuri, and I'm like, no, maybe it's, you know what I mean? Like they just keep putting my faith and then taking my faith away.
yeah.
As to who is the betrayer
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not they're betraying on purpose, because presumably Khonshu can take over and convince someone to just do what they want. So
Right.
I really like this book. I think it's quite excellent. This is much like when I started reading Moon Knight. It's like I've never really read a Moon Knight series. I'd read Moon Knight, one-offs here or there.
Yeah.
Same thing with Black Panther. I've never read like a series on it.
Mhm.
So like reading this one, which kind of puts you on the same playing field, like it does. I'm sure it helps if you know some of the players, but it also doesn't,
Right.
because they're not who you knew. So
Yeah.
I really like it. Good stuff.
Cool.
And I think the guest artist did a great job.
Yay. I'm glad. We should mention, by the way, this show is sponsored by viewers like you. If you're watching the show live, you can do so by you can sponsor today's show by using super chats. Ask a question or comment, read it here on the show, and it'll be part of the show forever. We're going to do that a little bit later. I want to get through the books, and then we can have a whole segment where we just read the super chats, get into those conversations, and then we'll be good to go.
Great. I read Hellverine #2.
Oh, you did?
Week. Yeah, it's 2 of 4. So it's just like a mini by Ben Percy, with art by getting that credits page. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Julius Ota.
Okay.
So if you had read that crossover between Wolverine and
Ghost Rider,
I'm looking right at him. I'm like, the Skull Man with the flaming skull
Spawn.
head. Yeah, no. That's just Wolverine for a hot second became like a Hellverine, being inhabited by Bagra Ghul.
Yes, his own spirit.
Yeah. But that was banished, and this book was like, it's Hellverine, and I was like, how are they gonna do this? And they're like, because we're gonna use Akihiro, because Ben Percy was setting this up when he did
his Wolverine
Sabretooth,
run.
like the Sabretooth War. Like,
oh yeah,
he set this up. Akihiro's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And in pieces.
Yeah, right.
And in this, Bagra Ghul found his grave, and like these put them all back together, and he kind of has memories and kind of doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the Hellverine.
Nice.
And Wolverine's like, immediately he's like, that's my son. I'm gonna fix this. I gotta go. And that's what it is. It's Wolverine tracking down his kid, who is a spirit of vengeance, who is a spirit of some sort.
Yes, a hell spirit.
Yeah,
if you will.
And there's a whole like governmental kind of conspiracy wrapped around this. There was a series of like a platoon. I don't really know military terms, so I apologize if it's not.
I think that's fair. A garrison, perhaps.
Just a group of like some military folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
All but one of them died. The other person, is home in a wheelchair, has survivor's guilt. And the others, they're dead, but they're not.
They're demons now.
Yeah,
or whatever.
They were brought back, and so we're dealing with that too. Is they're remembering their memory, or they're gaining their memories back?
Yes.
We get to deal with one of them. Like, one of them goes back to their house where like his wife and kid are, and his wife is like, "I can't believe you left us."
He's like, I didn't. I died.
Well, he's like, he can't really talk. He's like,
he's a ghost. Or
he's
whatever.
barely got anything going on up there, but he knows his family.
Yeah.
He's like holding on to his kid, and his kid's like really upset about it. I'm really setting this up for a very specific reason, because like inevitably he lets the kid go to his mom or her mom. And she's like, okay, like mom's like, we're gonna leave now.
Sure.
Right. And then Wolverine shows up and just decapitates him in front of the kid.
Yep, that's what he does.
It's like, oh, Wolverine. Oh,
that's not my problem.
No, no, honey. What? No. It only gets worse for this family.
Of course.
It just inevitably gets worse. They're fine physically at the end of this.
Right.
They will never recover from this issue.
Almost certainly.
Is my opinion on this. But yeah, if you're looking for more supernatural action in a Wolverine book, this is the book for you. But don't worry, if you just want Logan Wolverine, that's who he is.
Yes.
He is not the Hellverine in
no.
this. So
even
like,
though
if that
it
was
looks like they're drawing that the entire time.
Right. But like, I mean, like, that's to be like fair. Most times out of 10,
And that's the action figure they
Well, I
made
was
of him.
gonna say the Spirit of Vengeance kind of
Looks
looks
like
the same.
Danny.
It's just different clothes. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true. That's true.
So he, Bagger Ghoul inhabited one. So he's like, that's fine. So yeah. So if you were not reading this because you're like, I just want to read a Logan book, this is technically a Logan book.
He's in it. Yeah.
He's in it. He's doing his thing. So there you go.
Cool. I read Superior Spider-Man number 8 from Dan Slott and Mark Bagley, just continuing to be like a stealth Amazing Spider-Man book, just continuing to be Dan Slott, like writing Spider-Man and just not letting it go and only referring to his own continuity, but also kind of tying it in with at least Amazing Spider-Man because, So this is just the wrap up of this new series, Superior Spider-Man. It has always just been a Secret Amazing Spider-Man like alternate book. Like I've always maintained that this book exists basically because Marvel wasn't sure when they hired Zeb Wells to write Amazing if he would be able to maintain sales. Marvel has since learned that sales are maintained regardless of who's writing it, so it doesn't matter. But until that time, this book existed to kind of like supplement sales and kind of be that consistency that people might be looking for. And it is. If you read and you love Dan Slott books, you're gonna have this because that's what this is. It's just more of that, But obviously, the day is saved. Doc Ock is defeated through kind of cleverness and subterfuge, and Bailey is at the center of it, but it doesn't steal the spotlight because Slott understands that he doesn't need to be, like a Poochie. He just needs to exist in order for him to be secured and one day get adapted and give him residuals in the future. But so this book is Mark Bagley's doing what he does best, which is come out fast and make Spider-Man do fun poses. And it is certainly a more enjoyable read than Amazing. But if you were reading this to see them bring back Superior, you would be disappointed. But it does set things up for the future where Doc Ock no longer has the memory of Peter Parker, maybe, unless Dan Slott wants to bring that back, in which case, he will. But a lot of genies are put back in the bottle as far as this book is concerned. So it's fun. It's all right. It is fun. It is certainly a Dan Slott Spider-Man book. Take it or leave it as far as that's concerned. And I for my part, I enjoyed reading it.
Okay. I read Zatana.
You did. I didn't get a chance to read Zatana Bring Down the House #1.
By Mariko Tamaki and art by Javier Rodriguez. You've probably seen this art before if you read Defenders or Defenders Beyond. Remember that? Defenders? That's the art in here.
Oh, wow.
It's a little different, slightly.
Okay.
But I love it. I love the art in this. It is just so great looking.
Yep. I love it.
It's very stylized. It makes you think of other things without being those other things or trying to be those other things. It makes me think of Darwin Cook, but they're not trying to be Darwin Cook.
No, yeah.
It kind of sometimes makes me think of Trad Moore, but they're not trying to be Trad Moore.
Cliff Chong, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things it looks like, and that brings you comfort sometimes.
Right, but still manages to be its own style.
Thing.
Yeah.
Love the look of this. It's just a Zatana story. We're just doing a Zatana story.
Wow. It's not Zatana loses all of her powers or Zatana dies or, some kind of weird Black Label twist on the character. I guess as far as they're concerned, it's as long as Zatana comes out, it is still a subversive book because we don't make Zatana books anymore. It's just not expected. The only thing that's unexpected is the Batman isn't in the book.
No, it's like Zatana doesn't really want to she still has her magic abilities, but she doesn't really she's just being a magician in Vegas.
Okay.
That's what she wants to do.
Sure.
She says she does tricks, and we allude to why that might be. Something might have happened when she was a kid that she might have messed up. You know what I mean? And we're gonna deal with that. And that's without it being too much of a downer. It's more it's a mystery. What happened? Who is this mysterious lady who keeps coming to her shows and wearing sunglasses all the time? I don't know, but I really can't wait, especially when you see creatures show up that look like that.
Oh,
I'm so here for this.
Yeah.
I'm so here for this. Love this first issue. Such a great opener. You completely get the tone. You get maybe an idea of where this is going without them just laying out the pathway in front of you.
Yeah.
And it just gets me excited for the next issue.
Nice.
I thought I was going to enjoy this, but I
but you were still surprised to find that you enjoyed it.
How much I enjoyed this. Such a great issue. So if you're looking for something Black Label that's not Batman, and you have any interest in magic, I highly recommend Zatana.
Absolutely. Well, I read Penguin #11 from Tom King and Rafael De La Torre. as usual, this is the penultimate issue. I believe there's 12 issues. I don't know if it's like marketed. I know that when they build it, it was going to be an ongoing Penguin issue or series, but I think we all knew that it wasn't really going to be 12 issues. I think, or it wasn't going to be an ongoing. But yeah, it's
ongoing to 12 issues.
Yeah, it is. At this point, I would recommend you read the first 10. But this is great. It's just a great book. Penguin grappling for control. Yeah, it wraps up at 12. Penguin wresting control of Gotham from his own children and watching, his world fall apart. Love, sex, betrayal, Batman. It's got it all. And fantastic art that is moody and captures the spirit, but also feels contemporary and doesn't feel like it's trying to hit some kind of weird note. I talked about the winning card in this week's back issues, which is available if you want to watch it early. You can watch it on patreon.com/comicpop, but no sponsorships. But that book, regardless of how great Mitch Gerrard's work is on that book, it feels like it's like, here's like a weird marriage of Killing Joke meets the original Joker origin from the Golden Age. And it's like, why? This is like a story. Like, it's just a straight up, like, here's a story about what would, watching Penguin attempt to become top bird again. And then watching it all, crumbling down, because if Penguin won, Batman is ineffectual. So,
Right.
It's really cool, and it's just well written, and just a really great book. I don't want to get into too much of the specifics because like it's the second to last issue, and a lot of characters like die or go away, and I don't want to say who and what.
I understand,
but it's definitely worth reading. It's definitely worth reading, despite my protestations when they announced it in the first place.
Excellent. I read Flash number 10.
Good.
This week, if you could imagine.
Yeah.
It's written by Cy Spurrier with art by Ramon Perez and Vasco Georgiev.
Oh no!
What?
It's Batman's Justice Buster armor from Batman Endgame.
Yes.
Cool.
Obviously, this story is simultaneously continuing the story arc that Spurrier began at issue 1 with Wally and the arc angles and wanting to seemingly forget and escape everything that is barreling down upon him.
Naturally.
Which is like a really interesting concept. The idea that like one of the fastest people alive, something like things catching up to him.
Yeah.
There's something there. I like it a lot. Wally has seemingly ended up just kind of forgetting everything at this point. Which is exactly where the antagonist of the story would like him to be, an empty vessel.
Okay.
Like, neat. Everything from issue 1 has been happening for a reason, and here we are. But we're also dealing with the fact that this book is barreling into absolute power.
Naturally.
And so in it, Barry is fighting this Batman armor.
It's Barry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Remember, all the Flashes.
That's
are
right. All
here.
the Flashes are here.
Wally is elsewhere.
Right. Yes.
Wally's running his story.
Yeah.
Barry is running the absolute power part of it, seemingly. Right.
Cool. All right. Cool.
So, Waller's in the ear of the like mech pilot for this suit. Being like, we gotta do this, we're trying to do that. They're like running, machine learning algorithms on whatever, trying to do X, Y, Z. But really, here, what do you want to know? Who's piloting the suit? That's all I want to know. We see them from the behind. We're like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? It's
Green
Ollie.
Arrow.
And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's like, this takes place after issue 13. And I'm like,
that's fine. I mean, all you need to know is that Ollie's working for Waller.
Right?
That's
like,
fun.
He's doing like he's really going at it.
Yeah.
He's really like, I'm like in a way where I was like, what is happening? He ends up trying to write a letter, like a note in the ground that's like, Barry, please, like, you got to stop. Because like I said, like their algorithm is trying to like figure out how to stop them. And so they end up using like a fluid, like a super,
like sticky or something?
No, not sticky. The opposite.
Oh.
It gets rid of all sorts of
frictionless.
Frictionless fluid. So like make it so that the Flash can't run well.
Yeah.
Pivots and fixes that and it's all fine.
Cool.
Right? Drags him around for a little bit. Inevitably, like Barry ends up like tapping into the like the signal, the vibrations of the signal that is being sent out, so that like he can find where all of like the server room is essentially for this. And he also defeats the suit, which then sends the like pilot ejected out.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just defeat the suit on his own. He defeats the suit because of the fact that the other Flashes that were being kept, remember, by Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Who we now know who Pilgrim is, right? Yeah, okay. Big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Won't ruin it if you haven't caught up, I guess.
Please.
But the other Flashes are freed.
Yep.
And they join the fight. And, you know, Ollie's like, cool. Yeah, because, like, he's upset because Waller said, like, we're going to do one thing. And he's like, that's not what you said. And it's like, okay, why in the DC universe is everyone always like, but you didn't say that when it comes to Amanda Waller?
I know.
I'm like, you just gotta
I assume in this case, Ollie is just playing the part.
Okay.
You know, he's like, obviously I'm not going to kill Barry.
Okay.
But I'll make it look good.
Right.
And then when I face Waller, I'll be like, what? You didn't tell me that this is going to work. And then she'll be like, because she's expecting him to do that.
I guess. But I mean, I understand when she's like, I can't believe you betrayed me. Like, sure, because you always think you have all the answers. It's just like if you're dealing with Amanda Waller, you're like, well, inevitably she's going to stab me in the back, or she's not going to tell me the truth, or whatever. Like, I should just see it coming.
Absolutely.
I just know, oh, here's where you inevitably betray me.
Yeah.
Like, But like, essentially, she's like, she's taking the asset of Oliver Queen and moving him to another plan.
Okay.
Right, and she's like, you know, we're gonna expedite our other plans, right? And then in the background, you see like the robots, Flash robots.
No, these are Amazo robots of every superhero.
Yeah, but they're Flash.
Oh, they're all Flash.
This is all Flash.
Okay.
I'm like, that's why she was running the algorithm
to beat all the other speedsters.
She needed to make sure that they knew, I guess, as much as possible about everything that they do.
Yeah.
So that's
fun.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good there. And I think Spurrier's really handling like these two storylines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have all these Flashes.
Yeah.
You have all of the speedsters just in general. Make use of them. Yes, this is a story about Wally.
Yes.
And what is going on with him. But we have Barry. We have seen him like in and out of this. He's overcome having Eobard in his head.
Yeah.
Right? Eobard.
Yes.
The New Jersey me drops in these letters sometimes. And, you know, why not let him handle a little bit of that crossover?
Absolutely.
That leading up to absolute power. Why not? Right?
I agree.
But yeah, like, you know, I love this last panel, page. It's gorgeous.
Right.
We're seeing the angles, you know. Presumably, our team who's hanging out with like Pilgrim, is figuring out that the angles like lied and why. What happened? To what end? Like what's going on? What other entity is working with them? Right?
Yeah.
But I do love the fact that the angles look like more. If you know Evangelion, it has a little bit more of like that sort of like what angels might actually look like. That horrific, you can't comprehend it kind of look to them.
Totally.
But again, like in this like second half of this arc, this has really turned much more into like a superhero book, and so like hopefully fans of Flash maybe got on to this
jumped on
because it's like once Barry got more involved, I feel like you had that element of it, and then you had the stuff that I really dug with Wally still happening.
Good.
So I feel like it's something for everyone. I hope.
Yeah.
If you weren't a fan from the get-go, let it collect and trade. Give it a read from start to finish.
Yes.
Like I think seeing it in trade and like knowing that at the end of the day
there will be some superheroics in it.
Yeah, that it's an easier like pill to swallow at the beginning of it. But really enjoyed this issue. Good stuff. Additionally, because of the fact that we mentioned some AI stuff before, I just like Spurrier can't help himself. There's something about like all writers do this in comics, but I just find that British writers tend to do it a little bit more. They put in like little cheeky things that are going on either in the culture around them or in the world at large. But Ollie is in the suit before we know it's Ollie. Waller's like, you know, talking about like, oh, like why are you like activating manual controls? Like Peter's still analyzing behavior. It's great, blah, 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 right? And like Ollie's like, listen, like billions of dollars to miss the entire freaking point. AI can't create, lady. All it does is regurgitate old shit in pretty patterns. Situations like this, what's needed is like a person, essentially. And I was like, and there it is.
Yeah.
Just so you know, everybody, Oliver Queen is against AI in that capacity.
But also, he's definitely like sowing the seeds of dissent.
Yes.
But yeah, that's great. I love that.
Sure.
Nice.
So,
well done. Well played, Ollie.
Yeah.
And Sai.
And yeah, good stuff.
We read Blood Hunt #4 from Jed MacKay and Pepe Larraz, continuing the trend of like this book that looks amazing, that comes out consistently, that's also a massive event that has a million tie-ins, but also doesn't really need them. You can just read this on its own. If you're a Jed MacKay fan, you're going to read all the other Jed MacKay books, and I'm sure you'll be rewarded. But I'm not, so and I'm finding it easy to read.
Oh,
It might also just because it's so pretty. But yeah, Blood Hunt number 4.
Yeah, can we talk about this? Like, apparently,
It's delightful.
It's delightful, and I feel like I owed like Jed MacKay an apology
Yeah.
because that last issue, and again, that last issue, in my opinion, was not as good as this issue.
No, this
like,
one
at all.
Yeah, well, it's like
this issue was really, really great. And
he wrote it for the trade. It's just,
but like last issue felt like, and now we're going to talk about all the tie-ins.
Oh, I know that.
And then literally, it's like, no, none of that will be solved in tie-ins.
No,
it will all be solved in this book.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
right? Like, where did they go? What's up with the Atlantean temple? Who's the secret guy that's on the team with the Fist of Khonshu?
It's answered in here. He is in no way, shape, or form trying to go and make you read those. If you want to read those, read them.
You can.
Like, it's all here.
Yeah.
Here it is. Enjoy. I'm like,
yeah. Oh, who has inhabited Blade? Did Jed MacKay remember a story from the 90s? Absolutely, he did.
Well, okay. So let's by the way, if in this, for issue 4, if you bought the red band, you got 2 extra pages, which gave you a lot more information about who is inhabiting Blade.
Yeah.
If you didn't, it just cuts to the quick, and I'm sure you're fine.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're fine. But also, they were like, it really, I got the feeling that I think MacKay is going for. This felt like a 90s Midnight Suns Darkhold book. Like everything feels
100%.
red or has like a crazy fluorescent color on it.
If they're gonna do anything mystical after this, like if Marvel has decided that we're gonna have like a renaissance,
right? Like there's gonna be a Midnight Suns office at Marvel or something.
Like if they decide that this is literally the thing that's going to make that happen, and it's like feeling like it, because you have this going on, right? You got MacKay, who clearly loves writing Moon Knight, who clearly loves writing Doctor Strange. You've got Percy, who's clearly very interested in the supernatural side of like Wolverine's entanglements at times,
true.
like writing Ghost Rider,
Yeah.
making different people Ghost Riders, like just doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You got the fact that they mention Marie Laveau in this, right? So like if that name is dropped and you're like, okay, cool. They explained it a little bit in this book, but like she's got a long history in the Marvel universe. If you were reading Strange Academy, she's Zoe Laveau's grandmother. Great grandmother, grandmother.
I remember reading this and just being like, there's a moment I'm like, oh no, Tiffany will be excited.
Yeah.
Strange and Clea go. Like who?
Can I finish my Marie Laveau?
Oh, please,
thing?
yes.
So with Marie Laveau, though, you're getting the fact that it's like Jed MacKay knows who this character is and knows her history with Blade.
Right.
And like, so when they bring it up, it's important, right? You're like, oh, cool. But it's also MacKay showing you that not only does he like utilize these characters because they're tethered to like whatever's happening currently, but like that character has a tie to Doctor Strange, to Victor Strange, to making him Baron Blood when he like, you know what I mean? Like she's the reason he ever became a Baron Blood at some point. Like it's just him just moving his little pieces around because he's like, oh, I know that. I can use this. I can make that work here. Right. And it's the same thing with Varney, right? Like that's a character who's actually from the Hyborian age.
Yeah, it's a Conan character.
Yeah. So it's like, but he has popped up throughout Marvel's history.
Yeah.
There's a
like Set and
right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, go ahead.
So
about the thing that I was like, nah.
So you see where everybody's going, you know, like Strange and Clea. Well, Strange's ghost and Clea by the way, Strange's aura is also being aided by the cloak of levitation. But they go to Latveria, they go to Doom. They're like, all right, Doom, I know you've been waiting for us. Can you help us? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, I am definitely going to do that, but I want to kind of enjoy it for a minute. And so he does, and he just gives them a hard time and explains how he's gonna help and
why they're like, there are no vampires here. And he's like, of course
not.
Doom is prepared for vampires.
Yeah, I'm prepared for every eventuality, and I'll even drop some knowledge on you about who we're actually fighting. Yeah, but you don't even know that we're dealing with a character that Jed MacKay recalls. And Strange is like, surprisingly enough, I am surprised by that. And so here you go. And so they are, and like. So yeah, you're gonna get Doom, and Doom's like, but I want something.
Yeah, and this is the thing for me that I was like, is MacKay a really big Triumph and Torment fan?
Yeah, of course.
Because like, if you know, at the beginning of Triumph and Torment, one of the greatest Doctor Strange books and also great Doctor Doom books out there, read it if you haven't had a chance, and then watch our episode on it.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of that, the Vishanti call forth a meeting of magical beings and people from Earth, right?
Yes.
And go like, hey, listen, someone's going to be the Sorcerer Supreme.
It could be you.
It could be you, Doom. Doom's there. Strange is there. Strange gets
Morty
it,
Fleischman
right?
is there. Yeah.
So like Doom doesn't get it. And I'm always like, I wonder if it's like,
Yeah, he'll
like,
never get over it.
He's like,
He's so mad.
Yeah, he's mad about it, or he's just like, if McKay's like, what if it had been Doom?
Yeah.
Like, why not Doom? So we don't get to see that actually occur in this. I think we're waiting for
Yeah,
that
we're gonna
reveal.
have that moment.
I hope it's a big 1-page like image.
Here's the thing.
I want it.
Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation is normally drawn as an astral form when Doctor Strange is an astral form. Or if it isn't, it's someplace else.
Sometimes
it jumps out. Sometimes
well,
it doesn't.
sometimes it would exist in both places.
Let's
then.
put it this way.
If it was the cloak of levitation, it would be in astral form. It would probably just be the image of it and not the actual cloak.
No,
the cloak would be elsewhere. It would just be like, this is what I was wearing.
Now that I'm
has
thinking,
his clothes on.
I was going to say, now that I was thinking about it, actually, I usually see him not wearing the cloak when he's astral.
Yeah.
That said, the cloak is there. Why is it there outside of it being Doctor Strange's cloak? Because, Doom's going to be wearing it in the next issue.
I want that so badly, too. I really, really do. Additionally, this is my word today. It's my transition word. This is the issue that reminded me why people aren't like bursting into like flames. I'm like, oh yeah, the sky's dark. It's eternal night.
Yeah.
Remember, I got that now. Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Awesome. This is a really solid issue. Like I said, if you didn't get the red band issue of it, you're missing 2 pages. It just has additional backstory.
Just more backstory.
But it's specifically about Varney.
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. Also,
so Doom's like, we're gonna need more sorcerers to get like this thing going, and they're like, well, we're okay. I'll send out the alarm. Doom's like, don't worry, I've got it covered.
He's got the kids from Strange Academy. I was like, what?
And you get to see Pepe Larraz draw all the kids from Strange Academy. Isn't that fun?
Here's the thing. So now I'm like, now McKay is selling tie-ins.
Yeah.
but not on purpose. He's selling it incidentally, where I'm just like, well, no, I do want to go.
Yeah, now you got to read it. But also, hey, like if you don't know who they are, but you think they look as cool as the Blood Pact or whatever they're called, maybe you should go back and read.
But you can actually read their books, right?
And read their books.
The girl sitting there with like the snakes, that's Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Related to Marie Laveau.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this issue had a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. Also there. Yeah.
Who is the mystery person hanging out with Tigra and Hunter's Moon?
It's the Wrecker. With his enchanted Asgardian crowbar.
And
Why?
Can we just talk about the fact that a great pull using the Wrecker, remembering he's an Asgardian crowbar, because who are you going to break out from an Asgardian vault? It's Khonshu.
Yeah, Khonshu's in there.
We're going to break out Khonshu. Now, here's what I think is daring. This is a daring move by McKay. He is putting the resurrection of Moon Knight in this book.
Yeah.
Not his Moon Knight book.
Yeah, because here's the thing. McKay knows that for all of his every single one of his Moon Knight fans is also reading this.
Yeah.
So as far as McKay is concerned, more people will know that Moon Knight was resurrected in this issue than in his Moon Knight book.
Yeah.
Because you're getting not just the Moon Knight readers, you're also getting anyone who's reading a Marvel event.
Yeah.
No, and for right now, you're like, okay, but like he also resurrects every other Moon Knight of like ever that existed.
Yeah, well, they are there supposedly. Yeah,
but they're led by his greatest, which is Mark
which
Spector.
I that's gotta feel bad for Hunter's Moon. Yep. Where he's like, he led by my resurrected son, my Moon Knight. Hunter's Moon's over there, like, cool.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dad.
Whatever. Hunter's Moon. You were always a seat filler.
Middle child, apparently.
Yeah, you were a seat filler and you knew it. You look fun though. Hopefully you'll get a Marvel Legends figure. But yeah, like you got the resurrection of Moon Knight, you got the friggin' tease of Doctor Doom, Sorcerer Supreme. You get the reveal of Varney. You got a cameo appearance by the Wrecker and Strange Academy. This book has a lot.
Right. We also have.
I
was going to say, we also, again, this is another McKayism because Varney does have ties to Wakanda, which is why I think he made sure to have T'Challa. Like,
why T'Challa's his right hand man.
Like, you know what? I got all the players on the board. Like, I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna make this all work.
He expertly set it all up.
Yeah. We also see, T'Challa
try and.
Well, he he's like, no, the purple heart shaped herb
has been healing me.
Yeah, it's working. Don't worry about it. So like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And
so is everybody else, like Thor.
Well, only because of T'Challa.
Yeah, T'Challa pulls
the dagger.
Yeah.
Or one of the things, which I think is incredible because it's like, what does this issue do for me in particular? much like the last issue, which I thought was selling me tie-ins. I was like, this is such a Marvel like old school event. This is a like 90s sort of Marvel event, right?
But like
this issue feels like it too, but in like the best ways possible.
Yeah, it hits all the heights and it makes you feel hyped. It makes you want to read the next one. It makes you feel hyped
because it's like this is where you're starting to see that event pacing.
Yep.
It's like we are like running.
Oh, here we go
downhill. Like,
yeah, I was like, are there 5 issues to this? Because it feels like there's 5 issues. Like that's how excited I was. Yes, there's only one more issue left of Blood Hunt, so
you
it's
can
like
feel it, but it's like McKay is handling it really well.
Yeah,
like, he's handling it with better skill than I think has been handled with other events from that time period. Sometimes things are just rushed because they're like, oh, it's over. Who cares?
Yeah.
This is like, we get those moments. When Thor shows up, I'm like, this feels like such a classic event moment.
Well, because like, the Avengers got out of the way so we could have really fun characters like that wouldn't necessarily get the same limelight and focus on that. And then the Avengers can show up and then be Avengers.
Yep.
Yay. It's fun.
It's also nice because we're not like character assassinating Blade.
No, he's somebody else right now. They'll still not trust him. Like he'll still be in a weird place right now.
Yeah. So like really what this like event is doing is it's giving you a complete story from well, we'll see, but like from beginning, middle to end.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to read the supplementary stuff, you'll get more story, which I appreciate.
I agree.
Like obviously we're not finding out what happened with Blade's daughter, but I have a feeling she's going to show up at the end. All the teams are going to converge. Strange needed to get the moon back, essentially, to get the sky reopened. He's worked on that. He's done that. Moon Knight's shown up with all the others to help fight back the vampire hordes. That's a great moment too.
It is.
They jumping into battle.
Yep. It's awesome. Oh, and new costume. New costume.
Why not?
Yep.
Why don't we just take that and just dovetail right into Moon Knight, because Vengeance of the Moon Knight came out this week, number 6. This is 6 of 9 of this, written by Jed McKay. He's doing a lot of writing this week.
Yes.
It's just a lot of writing every week. And I believe the art is also by Alessandra. It's not. It's by Devmalya Pramnak.
Okay.
Pramanik. I thought this issue was going to be Tigra and Hunter's Moon. This issue is about Soldier and Reese. And 8-Ball.
Okay.
Like that's it. That's what they're doing during this time period.
Gotcha. That's fun.
Which like works flawlessly in terms of Blood Hunt.
Yes.
And also works flawlessly with the fact that these people are still coping with the death of Mark.
Yeah.
I'm like, well played, sir. It's just a really solid issue of the two of them. It can be read obviously within the Avengers of the Moon Knight run. It also could be read within just the scope of Blood Hunt, where it's like, you probably wouldn't though, because you don't know who these people are necessarily. But it's like, listen, like the city's overrun. What are they doing? Well, they're vampires themselves. And so what they're doing is they're helping to fight back, and they're helping to save people by bringing them to the Midnight Mission.
Yeah.
So they're basically combing through the streets and through buildings, trying to get people out to go to the Midnight Mission.
Gotcha.
There's like one guy who's like, no, you're vampires. I'm not going to go with you. And like, Soldier's like, well, let's just bust the door. We'll drag him out. We can do it, obviously. And she's like, that is a really bad look for us right now as vampires. Not a good look. No one else will trust us. So they leave him.
Yeah.
They just completely leave him behind.
Cool.
They run into a character that they had run into earlier in the Moon Knight series, because the Moon Knight series had also been dealing with freaking vampires like from the get-go. Like issue 1, Reese was a vampire.
Yeah, we're setting it up. Yeah, and there are vampires. Like there's a whole subplot about vampires in that whole story.
A whole thing. We also are setting up the fact when we had like the whole arc with the therapist, where it was like the therapist wasn't the therapist, and she's back to being that. She's been spending most of this book helping the characters who worked with Moon Knight to get over it. And in this, she's at the Midnight Mission, and as people are coming in, she's there to help counsel them for what they've gone through.
Cool.
And I'm like, this is so well done, right?
Yeah.
We also see like Capri Sun-esque juice boxes of what looks like hearts.
Oh no.
Because the idea is that like Soldier and Reese they don't have to sleep. They can just keep going as long as they're fed. Yeah. So like literally they're like, here you go.
Keep popping 5-hour energies. Yeah.
And 8-Ball just wants to, live up to Moon Knight, and respect. So Yulon shows up, vampire from earlier. She's like, technically you guys are of my line. So like what I'm saying is like, I took over Chinatown. I'm offering you guys, you come here, stay safe, you can be with me. And they're like, we have all the people at the Midnight Mission. How are we going to get them over there? She's like, oh no, you don't understand. Just you two. I don't care about that.
Right now.
And they're like, Well, here's the thing. We don't care about you. Like, we care about Moon Knight.
Yeah.
You know, and Reese stands up to her and, you know, makes a big show of the fact that it's like, we're like here to help people, and that, you know, you're so worried about the fact that like you think the coming darkness will last forever. And I'm telling you right now, the sun will rise. And like, what are you going to do then?
Right. Exactly.
So, Reese is like, okay, you two keep looking around. We forgot someone. I got to go back. And she goes back to the guy who they left in the building, like in the apartment, and is essentially like, she just sits outside his door and she's like, all right, so if you're not going to trust us, I'm just going to like wait here because Mark wouldn't have left you behind. And so like, I'm just going to wait here, and any vampires who come for you, like, I'll fight them off.
Okay.
And inevitably the guy's like, all right, let's go.
Cool.
And then they walk outside and the moon. And I'm like
that means the Moon Knight's coming right now.
No, it's just that they know that they got that part done, or that they freed Khonshu.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, that's how you know, like, what part of the event it's happening during.
Well, because Strange and they were working simultaneously, so I'm
cool.
This was just such a great issue, and again, it's like it's the luck of having the creator of this event like writing most of the characters who were involved with the event. So like
funny
all
thing
the
about
books
that
kind of line up.
It may be why people like so many of those Bendis events and how much they tie in with all the Bendis books that came out back in the 2000s.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's smart. I love it. That's so great.
Such a good book.
Yay.
Great issue.
I read Absolute Power Ground Zero #1. Okay. It is done by a huge number of creators, including Mark Waid, Chip Zdarsky, Josh Williamson, Nicole Maines, Dan Mora, Gleb Melenkov, Skylar Patridge, and Steve Wands.
So is this like the lead up to
Absolute Power? Yeah, this
Absolute
is
Power 1.
Yeah, this is
it's Absolute Zero.
Yeah, Absolute Zero. This is basically it's several different stories that take place that like give you shotgun all the context you need, so you like don't ask any questions when Absolute Power #1 comes out. Because we just want to get to it. We don't want to waste any time.
Yep.
You know, so it's just like, if you need to know, you know, like Waller has a problem with heroes. Waller has a problem with powered people. Here's how Waller managed to get characters like Failsafe or the Queen that Brainiac was building, or Ollie or Dream or any of the other characters. And so that's what this basically is. And it's not
Morpheus. Like
no. It's a different Dreamer. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was
like, no, that'd be amazing, but like, there's no way that Neil Gaiman would have signed off on that.
She just has like a new like sphere thing that he's in.
Yeah, that's so cool. That'd be so amazing. And it's like, there's no way they would have thought.
I don't want to do that. I don't want that.
Right? She's like, I trapped Dream, and I'm going to use him. Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be friggin' nuts. That would have been a Dr. Manhattan level reveal.
She'd either want Dream or she'd want Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny.
Like, she'd find a way to.
And it's Destiny, and you do the exact same image, but it's Destiny this time.
Yeah.
And Dream shows up and just ruins her day at the end.
It's Daniel. He might be able to. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's growing on me.
Only because Spurrier's writing him. But
yeah.
So you know, it's fine. I think it's worth it because it gives you all the context you need. And like, there's a beautiful sequence that Dan Mora does. All the art is actually quite good, but Dan Mora draws the sequence where Superman like stops a couple of bad guys, like the roof scene with the Gatling gun in Superman Returns.
Yeah.
But like, one of them just shoots at him and he just takes it and just falls. You've seen that?
I saw. Well, I actually saw that. That was I was a backup in Flash.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I read that.
Yeah.
It was just really well done.
It's so good.
So good looking.
I can't wait to see a whole book like that. So yeah, that's worth it. But what is the book of the week?
Wait, are we done?
We're getting to the recommendations.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I was like, wait,
chats.
did we do them all? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I thought there was one more for some reason. I was like, yeah, wait, no. Okay, yeah. What's your book of the week? Great question.
I think it's tough because like, I really loved Superman. But for me, it's a dead heat between Blood Hunt 4 and Penguin. I think I'm gonna give it to Blood Hunt because I never would normally give like a Marvel event. But I like, for feeling like excited and seeing all the pieces line up, I'm like, yeah, Blood Hunt. Way to go, Blood Hunt. You get book of the week for me.
Yeah, this is actually a very difficult week for me, right?
No doubt.
Because like Ultimate Black Panther has been so consistently good, and I like you've talked about with Nightwing, where it's like you it's easy to forget that it's been so consistently good.
Yep.
Because it's just doing its thing out there, right? So like, that's incredible. That Moon Knight issue was so well executed.
Oh, I know.
In terms of like having a tie-in, like that's the way to do a tie-in.
Yeah.
Like, nailed it. Blood Hunt got me excited, got me hyped.
Yep. Flash
was good too. Absolutely.
Zatanna.
Yeah, it's Zatana.
Oh wow.
Yeah. you took my vote.
No, I was just saying Zatanna was good.
I was listening to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Zatanna was, I think, it for me.
Wow.
It's a new #1. Out of the gate does a fantastic job of setting up this book, setting up, like some idea of where we might be going. Art is just like right up my alley. Really love so much of this book. I like Tamaki's voice for Zatana. Just good stuff. Really good. Can't wait for more of this.
Yay.
In the book of the week.
Before we get into our recommendations, of course, we need to talk to our super chatters. Ryumbo, ComicPop woo to you as well. Went to my first con. Thankful for your old advice. Frank Miller didn't show, but got to meet Sean Gordon Murphy, Jeff Loeb, Andy Kubert, and Klaus Janson.
Wow, it's a great lineup.
Great lineup, and awesome stuff. Hulkzilla, happy Monday to you guys. I don't have much to say. Just wishing the whole crew the best. Thank you,
You're so
Hulkzilla.
sweet. Thank you so much.
We'll extend your thoughts to the others.
Thank you so much. That's what I was trying to say.
Cat Lawyer, happy Canada Day to Logan in the back. Also, a shout out to Uncle Scrooge by Jason Aaron. It was good and also a great comic for younger readers, in my opinion. I didn't have a chance. I completely forgot that came out, but I do remember that being a thing. Colin Crumry saw Lee's commission price, understood why it was that. Disappointed, but didn't get mad. He's the head of DC and the highest selling living comic book artist. He can charge whatever he wants. Right. And hopefully we got into context like why it's not just that he's charging what he wants, it's charging what he thinks will hopefully change, maybe even change the system a little bit.
Right.
Aurora Borealis, are you planning on doing any Deadpool and or Wolverine on back issues this month? I think the gang would react really well to the end of the Joe Kelly Deadpool run. I think so too. We did a Deadpool 3-way episode where we talked about 3 different Deadpool #1 issues, and one of them was job by Joe Kelly, so definitely worth checking out on this channel alone. But yes, Wolverine's coming out in 2 weeks. Josh Wollabaugh, regarding rates, I was at Hershey Comic-Con on Saturday and bought some originals from a DC inker after hearing him say he hadn't had a rate increase in 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard that before. I've heard a lot of different older folks say like, I'm not going to change it now. And it's like, I understand. And I also understand this is just for some folks who are like in the industry for a long time, there's a real reticence to change because they don't want to upset the boat. They don't want to they don't want to risk what they have because of how tumultuous the industry is. Nicely done. Matt Fisher, my only comment today, why make a new Ultimate Black Panther when everything is pretty much the same? Love the show, and don't forget that Force works. They try.
I think it's because of the fact that it affords them the opportunity to change it up. I think right now they're banking on your general knowledge of Black Panther. As they're telling this story, but obviously, they're changing up your antagonists and and
the way in which they're presented. Like Storm is presented kind of like a villain. But or at the very least, like an antagonist of some kind.
Kind of. It's more like she and others are like have a guerrilla warfare going on. Like they're doing their own thing outside of Wakanda for sure. But yeah, I think a lot has to do with the fact that like much like with Spider-Man, a lot of what is coming into play. But you also feel like you don't know if the rug's being pulled out.
And that's what I'm expecting with Ultimate Spider-Man, and I think that's what you should expect for Ultimate Black Panther.
Yeah, no, the fact is like the big outlier here is actually Momoko's Ultimate X-Men. Right. It is just so it's just something else. I'm loving it.
Hey, you with the face, $20,000 is cheap for an artist like Jimmy Lee, in my opinion. I think that's fair. This guy 9947, I'd love to see you guys, Joel and Rob and others, do a video each Benny style for his channel as a way to honor and pay tribute to him. I think honestly, like, just talking about him and giving him his flowers, and maybe one day we'll all like jump in and do like a comic story video or something like that. But like I don't want to like steal their thunder, certainly. I'm happy with what we have. Cat Lawyer Defense Retreats. You're right. It's great for the industry. If the big names don't undercut themselves, then less famous art will get more attention. Art isn't just content. Exactly. I agree. Yeah, I hate calling it content, but I'm just conditioned to say it nowadays. Thorn Identity, thank you for your generosity. Regarding Tiffany's artist/art/pricing rant, applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shane W. Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. Did either of you watch the new Crisis animated movie? If not, please don't read the rest. We didn't. We saw some of it, but we haven't seen the most recent ones.
I didn't look.
Yeah, I did. I already knew that was going to happen.
Oh,
okay. Matt D, I never catch you live. Autoplay while cleaning, it came in handy. Best of luck with the cameras in the door. Thank you very much, Matt D.
Thank you very
much. We're working it out. Dex Baker, I have to watch the replay. Cheers, ComicPop. Well, thank you very much, Dex. Cheers to you as well. Muhammad Nur Alif Ibrahim, thank you very much for your support. We really do appreciate it. Doc, does it bother you that a certain group of or character will never reach a certain goal? With the X-Men ever achieve equality? Will Batman ever save Gotham? It's something I think about sometimes. I mean, honestly, sometimes that does creep into my mind, but I try not to think about it too often because it's really like knowing that they're serialized storytelling, knowing that like they're characters that will never end. The best you can hope for is to read a really seminal or satisfying Elseworld story or out of continuity story, or like just a nice jumping off point. Sometimes I like to identify like what my last story is for these characters, so that no matter what happens in the future, I can always refer back to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I don't think Batman can save Gotham, but like I appreciate watching him try. Yeah, that's like you've seen him do it in Kingdom Come, where he has like those bat drones all over the place. And that's kind of neat, but also it's ultimately unsatisfying because it means that he kind of like betrayed a lot of like civil liberties and morals to do it. And but that's part of that story. But yeah, it's, I try not to think about it. Matt D, happy to catch you guys live finally. Gonna check out the Zatana recommendation.
Hey, that's so great.
And Brian Lewis 97, ComicPop Woo.
Wow.
Thanks, thank you very much for generosity. Thank you both for introducing me to several incredible stories and creators over the years. So much so I gave my mother, who doesn't read comics, my copy of The Visions, and she ate it like candy. Much love to the ComicPop crew. Thrilled to hear that.
I love it.
Yeah, that
so
Vision book is so
much.
good, and I'm so glad that she enjoyed it.
I think that's really sweet. I think it's just like another way to connect with like
loved
ones, friends, family, whatever they are. And it's also good, like regardless if they read another comic after that, like they got to know you in another way.
That's true.
And I think that's really, really cool. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that.
That's fair. So recommending books that are coming out this week that we think you should check out.
Let's do it.
For one thing, we should tell you that this is the week that DC is back to Wednesdays.
Wow.
So no longer will you be getting your DC books earlier, and instead you'll be picking up your books all on the same day, like you should have the first place. Batman number 150 coming out on Wednesday, like it should, right next to Spider-Man.
Gosh.
Is coming out. I'm recommending that one. Absolute Power number 1, obviously, is something I think you should check out. Birds of Prey number 11 is a fantastic series. Wolverine Deep Cut number 1 is coming out, which is by Chris Claremont with art by Edgar Salazar. Look at that cover.
Oh boy,
that's friggin' dope. I believe Philip Tan.
This is really interesting because this is another Sabretooth
versus Wolverine story.
Which obviously they didn't just do this because of what was like because of the fact they just did that event. Like this is clearly in the hopper. They just wanted to do it.
Yeah,
I just think it's so interesting that they're like, Ben Percy, you had Ben Percy and Victor Lavelle, you had yours.
Yes.
Here's Chris Claremont's.
Right. And also it's a retcon. It is a story that takes place around the time of Uncanny X-Men 246. So it's just like the mystery, like the lost Wolverine story from Claremont. So that's kind of fun.
Do you think this is a recently written one or an in the drawer?
I don't know. I feel like it's probably in the drawer, like jot down that he had. And I'm gonna skip that one now. And I'm gonna try out Thundercats Chitara number 1 from Sue Lee and Domenico Carbone.
Has nothing to do with this cover.
Oh no, it has nothing to do with how hot Chitara is. It has everything to do with the fact that the Thundercats book is really good. So how about you, Tiffany? What recommendations do you have?
Doctor Strange number 17 is coming out this week. Of course, it's Jed McKay and Pascal Ferry. This cover's so good.
Wow. Yeah, it is.
It's so good.
Man,
it's so
from afar, I thought
good.
it was something else. Like I thought it was a what's it called? A Bill Sienkiewicz cover.
Oh,
and I was like, man, why don't you get Bill Sienkiewicz to do more covers?
Look how good that is.
Look at that. That's so great.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of good covers on books, I need to catch up on that. Poison Ivy cover is great. So.
Yes. 24 issues to catch up on in that book.
Did you mention Birds of Prey?
I did indeed. I love that book.
Yeah. Gavin mentioned we should check it out.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, Gavin's drawing it right now.
I know.
So it's definitely worth checking out.
At some point, I'm going to catch up a lot on the
Blood Hunt tie-ins.
The Blood Hunt tie-ins and such. But like Blood Hunters looking like Dr. Doom on there for sure. Should definitely be checking that out.
Yep.
Oh
my God, look at them all. Werewolf by Night, Black Panther, Psylocke's getting one.
Yeah.
And Space Ghost number 3 is coming out. I'm going to check that out as well.
Very nice. What about this?
Oh, is that really dropping that week? Oh my God.
It's a preview.
Okay. Because there's Spider-Man Ray number 2.
By Kari Andrews.
Kari Andrews wrote and drew the last one too.
Yeah. I'll check it out.
Yeah. I'm going to read it. It looks like there's another one that I also need to check out, because this is what happens when you look at these books ahead of time. But Public Domain number 6 is also dropping.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice.
This is a fantastic series that you should also be reading, folks.
I love it. I love it. If you're reading Last Mermaid, I have not caught up on this, but number 5 will be coming out.
Right.
Let's see. Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu number 0 will be coming out, written by Jed McKay with art by Alessandro Cappuccio.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see what this is all about.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Because Vengeance of the Moon Knight hasn't ended.
No.
But
maybe it won't. It will though.
Yeah, but it will. Yeah, there's a Werewolf by Night book. Wow. Oh my God. Do I dare?
Do you dare?
Do I dare? Life of Wolverine number 1 is coming out. Here's what's interesting about this book. The logo is very in keeping with Krakoa, which is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're over it. It's 40-page comic book. Art by Ramon Box, written by Jim Zub.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to check that out.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, well, don't forget the 10 lives, 10 deaths. Is this like a callback to that, or
right?
Is it a different kind of life?
Right. I'm going to find out.
Neat.
I'm going to check it out. I like when there's I like Logan one-off stories. So
who doesn't?
Kind of had me there already.
Oh my God.
It's Hellcow. I had to see Hellcow. There's a lot coming out this week for sure. I think that's where I'm going to probably.
I think that's the year.
Stop for right now. That doesn't mean that those are the only books I'm picking up. Those are the books that are jumping out at me right now that I know I definitely will be picking up.
Yes. We should also mention that one last super chatter. Alden Tolbert, the Imagine of Jack Quaid's Superman versus Homelander. Yeah. And John Ty, Poison Ivy by G. Willow Wilson made me a fan of Poison Ivy. The art for this series makes it look and feel like a Swamp Thing.
No, I was early on reading that, but it was kind of during, I can't remember when it launched, but it was definitely during like a higher volume of Krakoa books.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, that book.
You had to make sacrifices.
I had to make
it was
a sacrifice, which I'm so thrilled that it is continuing. Because I felt bad about that one for sure. So I'd like to go back. Man, when's her Hunger in the Dust coming back? I thought it was
a good question. I don't know. Soon, hopefully.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. But we want to thank you all so much for watching today's episode. Thank you to our super chatters for sponsoring today's show. Thanks to the chat for being respectful and cool in the comments. And of course, we'll see you guys next week with another episode. But stick tuned for this to this channel and more here on ComicPop Returns, and of course over on youtube.com/ComicPop as well for back issues. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot, Tiffany, for doing the show, and we'll see you guys next week. So long, everybody.
Elden Ring with me tomorrow.
Oh yes, watch Tiffany on twitch.tv/ComicPop or youtube.com/ComicPop Plays, and make sure to subscribe to those so you know when Tiffany's going live. It's usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays every week. See you along, everybody.
Bye.